Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players, uncover their stories, and discover what makes them tick. If you love guitar, music, and the backstory of people's lives, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey, this is Craig. If you're a musician, I made a special 3-question survey for you at everyonelovesguitar.com/survey. Again, musicians only. Complete this 3-question survey at everyonelovesguitar.com/survey. Alrighty now, let's do this. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, and we have a really interesting guest today. We're with Shawn Dailey. He actually is a bass player, and he played with Courtney Love and Hole, and he was on the Nobody's Daughter album, and he is currently a manager, and he's got some really cool clients, and we'll talk about all of this today and more. God, that sounds like a freaking infomercial. He grew up in Santa Barbara, but wait, there's more. He grew up in Santa Barbara, where there was a huge music scene there in the early 90s and 2000s. He was constantly around people like members of the Foo Fighters, the Plain White T's, Sugar Cult, and even Katy Perry are all from Santa Barbara. He did his first band did the Warped Tour in 99 with Blink-182, Ice-T, and Eminem. He got his first record deal with Capitol in 2001, and he had a top 10 hit with his band Rock Kills Kid in 2006 with their song Paralyzed. I don't know if you know that song. It's a really, really good song. We'll talk about that too. Again, he started with Courtney Love in 2007, and he was on the Whole album called Nobody's Daughter in 2010. He became a manager in 2016. He's currently working with Talking Heads guitar player Jerry Harrison and author Anthony Bozza. Man, thanks so much for your time, Shawn. I appreciate you coming.
My pleasure.
Rock Kills Kid was a really good alternative band, and you guys had a great groove. What it was like, was there anything specific that happened as to like why things fizzled out? Or
Drugs.
Drugs. Kids, stay away from drugs.
Don't do drugs. No, we had I've never seen more opportunity given to a group of more messed up people. And usually you hear that, you hear those kind of stories with bands like Motley Crue and all these others, like, oh, they were the biggest fuck ups and they blew all these opportunities, but they came out on top. Like, we didn't come out on top. It's a really good lesson, actually. The band was essentially me and the singer at first, and he had already done the band on an indie label, and I was brought in by their original manager, Lauren Israel, who is a kind of a controversial A&R guy manager, and he brought me in, and the first thing that happened was we agreed to fire him. So that didn't start the band off on the most positive note, but it was what we needed to do. And the singer was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and we're still friends, so it's nothing that I wouldn't say right in front of him. And everyone did their best to hide that, whether it was our manager, the A&R guy, and these are all great people, but they were doing what they thought was right. But it was a perfect example of millions of dollars thrown at a project, but the one problem that needed to be fixed was not being addressed, and it was that the singer was clearly an opiate addict, and the rest of us were not too far behind.
Yeah, but in a situation like that, like you can't fix that, as you know. It's not like you say, "Hey, man, I need you to go to rehab for 3 weeks and fix this."
No,
it doesn't work like that, as you well know. What's that?
Start there, though. I mean, instead of when you don't show up for a Warner Brothers press day with every these are things that bands and artists and DJs and hip hop artists would give their right arm to have these opportunities, yet alone to be paid large amounts of money to just have opportunity. They don't even care if you're successful. They're going to pay you anyway.
Yeah.
And to just blow things like that off, or 20 of the biggest music journalists in the world are in a room and they're just looking at me, and none of them want to talk to me. They want to talk to the big, tall, handsome guy that wrote all the songs.
Yeah.
He's in a motel somewhere passed out because he tried to drive through the night and got too high.
Wow.
So yeah, he might not want me to share that, but you know what? It's what happened. So
sure.
we're gonna share it. Not that he listens to podcasts.
Everybody listens to this show. Shawn, what are you talking about?
This guy, I love this guy, the singer of that band, Jeff Tucker with Rock Kills Kid, is one of my favorite people in the world. He's probably the most talented person I've ever worked with. And, tall, handsome. He's the guy. I had the best story about him is he drew he bought a book on drawing on tour and bought some blank paper. And within 3 hours had drawn not stencils, but like pencil drawings of everyone in the band that looked like photographs.
Oh
He'd
my
never been on a day in his life. He's a guy that you give him a skateboard and he's doing an ollie within 30 seconds. Like, introduce him to a girl, the girl falls in love with him. He's that guy.
Wow.
And we would all sit there going, if I could have 10% of that, I'd be the president,
Yeah, yeah.
But you can't make people care. And luckily, he's on a really different path these days. He's married, lives in Hawaii. He's got a great life, and I'm really happy for him.
That's great, man. So the story had a happy ending ultimately.
Yeah, he didn't want to go be a rock star. He just wanted to be creative.
Good for him, man.
It was cooler.
Yeah. Well, you can't do shit. You can't be successful doing something you don't want to do, especially in creatives.
Yeah, he wasn't about trying to be dishonest or bullshitting people. He was a real deal artist, and he tried to play the game, and it wasn't for him. And I wish he had just come out and said, guys, this isn't for me, instead of hurting himself with, drugs or alcohol or whatever. But that's the way it happened. And it led me, we went in to do our second record with Michael Beinhorn, who's one of the greatest producers of all time, so you should definitely speak to. And Michael called it from day one. Said, your singer doesn't want to be here. He's got other things he wants to do. And I think he's got some issues. And no one wanted to listen to Michael.
Really? So he did bring it up.
Michael called it out right away. Michael's the least bullshit guy you'll ever meet.
That's
like
great.
Yourself, New Yorker. Just calls it like he sees it. And it's from a loving place. And some people don't take it the right way.
Yeah, I think if you're, empathetic about things, people would generally will be.
Cared.
Yeah.
Really cared and thought he was talented and was willing to hold off on making an album. But the powers that be, and this is no knock on the label or management or anything. They're all people I still love and do business with. They just, they thought that if they kept him happy and kept him going, they could work it out later. And it doesn't work that way.
Wait a minute. Does nobody in California music know about drug addiction? I mean, how that works? Like how detached from reality can you be?
Someone was getting a big case of denial.
Holy shit!
Included. I mean, I'm a good salesman, man, and I would get in there as kind of the business guy in the band. No, he smokes a lot of weed, and guy likes to have a drink. So do I, and I know I should slow it down too. And I was really good at getting them to kind of laugh it off, and I feel partially responsible, but I was just wanted my money, at the time. Man. Broke kid.
Yeah.
I didn't want the party to stop.
I can't blame you. Well, let's talk about that for a minute. So Paralyzed, that whole experience, that song must have been a great experience.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would imagine it was incredibly exciting, especially because as the bass player, that whole song is driven by that funky, it opens up with like a great cool bass riff, and the whole beat carries the song, and that's not a usual thing for a bass player. So I was curious.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was great. What was that? Forget about the drug end of it. What was the entire experience like? Just like the rise and like I guess the fall, maybe even, I don't know.
The rise was more fun. It was weird because the band's not a household name. I mean, there's the record sold all right, and they're once in a while you'll get those people and be like, oh, I love that song. It was definitely like a song of the summer that year in the alternative radio space, which is the smallest of all the formats really. But it was really fun because it was like we were living in our tour van, just me and Jeff, the singer, and we made this album with Mark Trombino, who was a great producer, the first record. And that was a bass line Jeff had lying around. It was a little different when he had it, and I kind of took it and was like, that's cool, but we need to have a couple turnarounds in there. We need to add some, actual structure to it. So Mark Trombino and I worked with it and then added it to some other music Jeff had. And this song came out of it. And I think everyone knew the song was special. And even working for someone like Courtney or being in the studio with, guys like Tommy Lee or other people I've gotten the chance to work with, it's not as fun as your own piece of art. Hey, you're the most added song on rock radio this week in America. Like, what that's really cool. Like, does anyone care now? No.
No, but when you're going through it, does anybody care about anything that happened last week even now? No.
Getting that phone call when you're 22 years old, riding down the street, and you're like, wow, your song's on the radio in your hometown, and K-Rock just added it. And, the Lisa Warden at K-Rock is, coming to your show. And I know Lisa still, so we kind of joke about it still, but that's a cool feeling. You can't buy that. You can go work for any big artist in the world, but you're their employee.
That's so cool, man. Very cool. It's good that you got to experience that. And that's something that, I mean, what are the, it's a very small and infinitesimal percentage of artists in any endeavor get to experience something like that. So congratulations,
being like a Rolling Stone artist to watch, and having I remember having my video come on at 3 a.m. on VH1 when they still played videos, like at a hotel room and a tour stop, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I don't know where it's gonna go, but it's pretty cool for like right now.
Yeah, man. Well, good for you. Congratulations. That is a great accomplishment. How did you initially get the gig with Hole and Courtney Love? And I know you probably got 1,000 fucking stories, but can you share a few maybe cool or interesting ones without incriminating too many people?
Yeah, I mean, look, everyone knows who Courtney is. She's probably one of the most honest as far as who she is. Sometimes she'll have a story here and there that I'm kind of looking at going, that's not really how it happened. But Courtney is who Courtney is. She's incredibly smart. She's, very knowledgeable when it comes to fashion and style. She understands fame better than probably anybody else I've ever met. I met Courtney through Michael Beinhorn again. Michael was producing Rock Hill's Kid. It was falling apart. He knew it. We kept going. I was being courted by a couple other artists because I was kind of Mr. Out and About, who knew everybody. And I guess I'm an okay bass player. And Michael was like, I'm going to go do this Courtney Love record. She needs a bass player. She's always had females, but like just for recording, I think you'd be great. I think you'd just really do a great job and have a good presence right now. You're fun and kind of funny. And so I was like, all right, Courtney Love.
You actually say you're kind of funny. Yeah. You're fun and kind of funny.
Kind of
Not really funny, but kind of funny.
Kind of funny. Kind of funny to have around once in a while. And
That's great.
I was like, I don't know, man. I've heard these really gnarly stories. He's like, look, enter at your own risk. She is who she is. The people that love her have a great experience. The people that she doesn't like don't have a great experience. So we'll figure it out. So I went and did a rehearsal with her band members at the time who were in her solo band. Mm-hmm. And we hit it off right away.
That's great.
And me and these two guys from England, Stu Fisher and Mick O'Larkin, they're both great players. Courtney had been with them for years, and we started playing, and then she came around like the second or third rehearsal. She showed up, and we got along right away. She knew I was from Santa Barbara. She used to like coming up here, and she thought it was cool that I was in a band that had kind of done something. Like I wasn't just. She knew I had other opportunities, and I think she liked that. And I think she liked the fact that I was just kind of treating her like I would anybody, not like, oh, I heard you're crazy type thing. Like there was none of that. It was just like, you're difficult. We all know that, but let's make a record. And I was just supposed to do the record,
right,
and then move on. It was supposed to be a solo record, but that's not how it ended up, obviously.
Wow. Any cool stories for your time with her?
I mean, there's a million of them, man. I mean, I was thinking of one the other day. We did these festivals in Europe under the name Hole. We were doing the Hole because we did a lot of Courtney Love solo stuff too, but she kind of was dating somebody and like was really wrapped up in dating him, and he'll remain nameless. And she's kind of following him all over Europe and like in a kind of a fun way. And everyone was like, oh my God, we've got this show in Switzerland. Like, is she going to show up? And everyone's worried, like, what flight is she on? And I remember just sitting there going, it's Courtney Love, man. She's going to show up on like a horse or something. Fucking 2 hours later, here comes Courtney in a chopper. And she's like, I just went shopping in Nice. And I'm just like, you're totally meant to be you're a real rock star.
Real rock. That's
shithead who's here for the ride, And, all these other bands like the Hives and all these bands that were big at the time were kind of looking. And she has an aura to her. Like, you hear people talk about Prince, like, oh, he had this aura. He took over the whole room. Courtney has that times 10. And she walked in and was like, okay, there's one rock star on the premises today, and it's definitely Courtney Love. And she had she walked in, what's the set? Okay, here's what we're going to do. And she walks on stage and just killed it.
Yeah.
And all this worry was for nothing. Like, she knew she was going to make it. She knew exactly how she was going to make it, but it was no one's business. And that's just kind of like a weird, fucked up story about Courtney.
Yeah. No, it's cool.
Kind of shows who she is.
You said one thing. I just wanted to question that. You said she understands fame better than anyone. Can you expand on that? Like, what do you mean by understands fame?
Like knows who's important to hang out with, knows who's not. Knows what events to go to. she just understands the process of like maintaining fame. When is infamy important? When's it good to be controversial? When's it good to, if people are inviting you somewhere to show up and be a train wreck, show up in a beautiful gown and say please and thank you and be this total lady. And when people, she's just really good at throwing people off. She's really good at getting people's attention and talking about her in negative and positive ways. And she understands the balance between them.
Gotcha. Thanks.
And I've never really met anyone like that.
So so most of the stuff she's doing is deliberate then.
I don't know if I'd say it's like totally deliberate. I think artistically, definitely not. But I think as far as a celebrity, yeah, I think Courtney, she knows what she's doing. She's definitely smarter than any publicist out there.
Good. That's cool, man.
Yeah, she's one of the smarter people you'll ever meet.
That's great, man.
Yeah, I respect that about her because that's her business. Fame is her business. People make fun of it as being unimportant, but she is in the business of being a celebrity, and the two sects of that business are rock star, actress. She's an entrepreneur. She's had 2 successful clothing lines. She's also a mom. And, people like to knock her in that sense, but, she's got a great relationship with her daughter. And yeah, there's some rough years in there, but I mean, who hasn't had rough years with their
I was just going to say, man, I've raised 3 kids. I assure you that's normal, not abnormal.
Your teenage daughter's not speaking to you? How shocking.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, it's intensified because you're Courtney Love and they automatically think something negative. But I mean, for me, the time I was with Courtney, which was almost 10 years, she was, we had our ups and downs, but she was always a good friend. There when you needed. She's a good mom. She cares a lot about her daughter. I think at the end of the day, that's really all she cares about. Everything else, like, you mess with her daughter, you're going to definitely see an angry lady coming at you.
Which is appropriate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In a totally appropriate way.
Let me ask you, you've been really fortunate in that you've played with acts on major labels at a time when all this was still possible. And, in a sense, you kind of got the last breath out of the dinosaur before it died. Yeah. Any thoughts on any of this?
Yeah, I feel bad for people in bands now. Yeah. I understand there's like this wave of anyone can make an album in their bedroom and you can upload it on Spotify. And if you understand how to manipulate social media and YouTube in an effective way, you can have an income stream overnight. But the amount of people who can really do that are pretty small.
Yeah.
A lot of people are, playing at the mall and they're putting it up there and getting 30 plays on Spotify. And they have a YouTube channel that their mom and her friends, or their friends subscribe to. And I'm not knocking people that are doing that. Yeah. It's really fucking hard to do it. Yeah. I couldn't do it without a label. It's basically what I'm saying. Back in my day when I was coming up, totally too old, but the label's interested. They're going to fly you to New York to play for the president so he doesn't have to fly to LA. They're going to put you up at the Soho Grand. They're going to take you out and get you drunk. They're going to, introduce you to really nice restaurants that later on you can hopefully afford to go back to. There's a certain, almost like a rite of passage that's gone now.
Yeah.
And I don't think your career in music should dictate some sort of opulent lifestyle, but you get into a band because you like to make music and you want to figure out how to do that all day, every day so you can make the best music, right? And you want to do it with people you like, but you also want to make money doing it. And you also want to have a lifestyle that kind of shapes up as to those you came up with. So if you grew up idolizing Keith Richards, if you're in, an 80s band and you grew up idolizing the Stones, you're going to try and do your best version of that, sure, musically and, lifestyle wise.
Yeah.
You're like me and you grew up on Nirvana and Hole and maybe later Guns N' Roses and stuff. We didn't have, the pot wasn't as big for us, but we definitely tried.
Yeah, sure.
So I think that people today are really missing out on that, but they're also learning how to do things for themselves and be entrepreneurs. So it's not all bad. There's good but the quality control is not there anymore either. Sure, there's artists getting signed to major labels and going through the record cycle process. And there's also people popping up off SoundCloud that, do it overnight. And they're some of the biggest artists in the world, but, they don't even have a manager. And I think we're at a time where things are really changing.
Do you think ultimately when the dust settles on what the changes are, some of the changes will be good?
Sure. I think there's a lot more A&R driven management companies now. One in particular, there's a guy that I don't know that well, but I do know from over the years that I think really high. There's a guy named Lucas Keller doing it in LA. He's managing writers and producers, but coming at it from almost like an A&R standpoint. So he's, from what I take, really, really focusing on the quality of the music. Now, how that's produced and as far as trends and stuff, I mean, you can't control that.
Yeah.
But he's really focused on client service and making sure that people have the support they need to be creative. And his company is flourishing more than anyone else I know right now, rather than a couple handfuls of big, huge management companies. He's really come out of left field with this business model that I bet a lot of people bagged on him. Oh, who cares about producer managers? Well, you look at his profit and loss sheets for last year. I bet you he can sing a different tune.
Lucas Keller's his name, you said?
Yeah, he's doing a lot of great things with management. I think guys like him are the wave of the future.
You made a comment which I totally respect, but it's something that a lot of guys struggle with. He said, you want to make music you like, and you also want to make money. A lot of musicians I talk to struggle with that. Like, I think the vibe I get, and in open conversation, is like, I think there's some perception of, if I'm making money, I've sold out, or I can't make money unless I surrender my creative process. And obviously that's not true in your opinion, and you're very comfortable with that. And I don't think it's true either. I mean, how much you earn and what you play is mutually exclusive unless you choose to tie the two of them together.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but even these folks out there, like, take a One Direction. I mean, that's a little outdated of a comparison now, but when those kids started out, they weren't trying to buy a Ferrari. They were just, they were just like, I like hanging out with these guys. I want to be involved in dance and song, and I want to work hard. And this is the opportunity. Now that job happens to pay really well, so they've gotten to benefit from that. But when I say make a living, I mean just be able to only do your music, whether that's making a few grand a month and living in a studio apartment and having a very simple lifestyle, but you still get to go out and play your music every day. To me, that's just as valuable as, Slash, who made $30 million last year.
Sure.
It's the same thing. It's just the two, at some point luck comes into it. But if you can afford to keep the lights on and have a car to drive around and eat 3 meals a day, just playing the music that you like to play, to me, that you are already infinitely successful.
I agree with you. And I think that's what most people, most of the people that aren't really hung up on money are, they're just grateful to get to do what they're doing full time without having to get a regular gig.
Yeah. Just to be able to make a small living, a simple living, Yeah. Yeah. If you can make millions, fantastic. But most likely you're not going to.
Sure. What prompted you to get into management, and what are the upsides and the challenges of being a manager?
I don't know. I'm trying to ask myself that every day. I was always business guy in the band. I was always the one on the phone with the manager every day, bitching about the singer, or the one meeting with the labels. I was the one who showed up on time. Not to say that I wasn't an absolute fuck up in a lot of ways.
Sure.
But in the responsibility category, I was pretty good. Not great, pretty good. And as Courtney started to wind down a little bit, she had 2 different managers while I was there, Rick Canny and Jonathan Daniel, who were both, very well thought of and managed. If I spouted off their client list, it would cover just about, a lot of the biggest artists in the world. And they both kind of were like, yeah, you should probably be on the other side of things, unless you want to keep playing. And I kept bitching about not wanting to tour anymore. And I was sick of it I'm not a singer or songwriter, so I'm always going to be playing someone else's music.
Yeah.
And I was sick of my happiness, livelihood, and opportunities being based on someone else. Whereas if in management, I can have 10 clients. And if, Joe, the guitar player, or whatever we'll call him, is having a drug problem, and, the other guy who's a producer wants to take a year off, I still have the other 3 working, so I can keep my business going and have something that I'm passionate about working on. So management seemed like the next right move. Will I do it forever? I don't know. I definitely didn't want to be a tour manager. I knew that. So it just kind of happened naturally. And I met Jerry Harrison from the Talking Heads while I was still a bass player. And, he didn't have a manager, and I saw an opportunity, and I sat him down and I said, I'd like to manage you. Here's what I think we can do over the next few years. And he was like, great, let's do it.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool. I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah, because he came from having a huge manager. He had a guy named Mark Bevan, who was one of the biggest producer managers in the world. And, it wasn't the right fit. And they were friends. And I respect the hell out of Mark and feel very lucky. sat him down at the right time. And I have a partner, Adam LaRue, that I work with on Jerry and a couple other things, and he's great. And he was on the label side when I was still an artist. And we just kind of started, at the bottom and said, okay, what needs to be done here,
That's really cool. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and other people started to call after that,
I think it's so cool that, and I think it's important that people hear what you did, because I think people often mistakenly feel that things are going to come to you.
No.
That is not, I haven't seen that with no one. Just, you went out and you said, hey, you went to Jerry Harrison and said,
yeah,
hey, I'd like to manage you. So that took some balls and it took some confidence, and it worked.
Yeah. And look, to sit there in my house and go, I've never managed anyone. I think I can manage Jerry Harrison, and I think I can maybe even put the Talking Heads back together, which I have failed miserably at doing. It's kind of say that as a joke, because I don't know that that's what any of them want, but we all, as a fan, I want it.
Yeah, yeah, all the fans want it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe they're the smartest ones in the room, and will drop it on us 5 years from now and be the biggest tour ever. Wouldn't surprise me with those 4 being as smart as they are. But I just, I saw an opportunity, and I figured even if he says no, he'll think highly of me being a businessman and being someone that I was friends with. And Jerry's a dad first and foremost. He's got 3 kids that aren't too much younger than me, and he's a guy that's been really good to me. And when I was struggling with certain things, he had very stern conversations with me that I wish my own parents would have had, or at least my own father. And so I just, again, like you said, you see an opportunity, you either go for it or you don't. You're already not managing the guy, so what's he going to say? No,
right? And you just know. Well, the other cool thing about that is, even if he did say no, the confidence level you would have had, it's like when you're going swimming the first time you take off the floaties or something like that, all of a sudden, like, shit, I could do this. And like, hey man, I asked the guy, even if he said no, but now I'm comfortable asking for that. Now I believe that's who I am.
Right. Or maybe it's then him saying, hey, I need a manager at a big company because I have all this royalty stuff, and I need someone bigger. But why don't you bring me into one of those companies that maybe you can be day to day, or why don't you be my assistant for a year and try to learn something? Or, hey, I'm producing this young band. Why don't you start with them and see how that goes?
Yeah. But nothing happens unless you ask.
Yeah, for the most part, or at least it's funny you mentioned that. A filmmaker I work with and I were talking about this the other day. Sometimes things do come to you, but it's because you're out there doing other things.
Yes.
If you're pitching 2 different, documentary films to an agent, and he says, well, these ideas suck, but hey, you ever heard of this guy? Remember this guy from the 90s? Mm-hmm. They're looking for his story. We've got a little bit of funding. If you can match it, it's yours. Well, now you're making a film, But you got to start. You got to just say, when in doubt, pick up the phone, write an email. Yeah,
you have to ask.
Yeah, at least at the end of the day, you can say, well, I tried.
Right. That's great, man.
It's not working because, and I can try this differently.
Very good success story, man. I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
Do you ever miss playing live, and do you still play or practice very much?
My ego misses it. Yeah. Especially as I get older. I kind of associate playing live with like being a little on edge and like everyone's very hot on talking about anxiety these days, but I try to like be anti-trend, but mental health isn't a trend. It's a real thing. And I'm not saying I had panic attacks on stage or anything, but there's a certain pressure to it that I'm glad I don't have. At the same time, I still think I'm young enough at 36, almost 37, where I mentioned to my old manager the other day, I'm like, well, I'm too old to play in a band. He kind of laughed. He goes, literally, I don't think I have any clients younger than you.
Well, yeah, everybody's touring that's in their 60s and 70s, man.
He's like, Mary, you could still always be the young guy still. Yeah. Courtney's 54? I'm 36, so we were almost 20 years apart, and I worked for her. So
yeah.
I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm really enjoying getting into the documentary stuff. That kind of fell in my lap through management, and I could see that kind of taking over and being what I do full time. But we'll see.
What are you doing with documentaries?
I'm being a producer, and so, which is essentially just like a manager. You're finding money, you're finding opportunity, you're making sure everyone gets along, making sure the team's doing their job. And it's essentially a film producer to manager, a very similar job in my opinion. I worked on a project called Take Me to the River, which was an award-winning documentary about Memphis. And I came on when the movie was pretty much complete for the release of it. Let's find a distributor. Let's get it to Netflix. Let's build a tour branded as Take Me to the River, which is still out there today, even though I no longer represent the project. That was even before Jerry. That was actually, and Jerry was a producer of that movie.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so it all kind of goes back to that, and I owe a lot to the director, Martin Shore. And again, I'm not working with them anymore, but that was kind of like, okay, I think I can do this. And then I started working on a couple other things, and I'm a producer on a film called Can't Penn, which is about Sean Penn's work in Haiti. And Sean's involved, although he's merely just the subject. He's not producing or directing it, which is probably a good thing because it's about him. Yeah.
It's kind of hard to have a third eye.
Yeah. No, we just want him to, he just did a big interview for us. And so it's just kind of like, like you said, just trying different things, calling different people and applying my quote unquote skill.
That's great, man. I'm glad you seem really like chilled out about it too. So, I mean, it seems like you're in the right thing for your, you got like some zen about it a little bit, you're like,
if it works, great. If it doesn't, fuck it, man.
Yeah.
I just moved back to Santa Barbara, and I haven't lived here since I was a kid. And the guy working at the bike rental place looks pretty happy too. So I think I can handle that.
Good for you, man. Okay, you grew up in Santa Barbara then?
I did.
What was your childhood like?
It's good. I mean, it's Santa Barbara. It's a privileged place to live. The weather's 75 degrees year round. It's just it's a nice place to live. So I don't think I realized that growing up though. I was like, this is what everyone sees. If you go to Alabama, it looks just like this. Or if I come see you in the Bronx, it looks just like this. Not that the Bronx doesn't have certain things that are way cooler.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Culturally, it does.
Yeah, culturally, maybe.
We don't have a ton of culture.
We have good pizza.
Yeah, you guys have good pizza and some good hip hop.
Yeah, for sure.
We've got, overpriced Italian restaurants with white tablecloths and beaches that are crowded with tourists and wine.
I remember seeing that movie, man. It was like about a white rapper, and I think it took place in Santa Barbara. Do you remember that? Jamie something was the...
Oh, that's Malibu's Most Wanted.
Oh, yeah, Malibute or something. Yeah, Malibu's Most Wanted. I remember watching it because I have two sons, so then they were, it's a guy movie when they were little kids. We watched that. That's funny.
Same deal. I mean, Santa Barbara's like Malibu. It's a bunch of rich people, a lot of older people who bought their homes a long time ago when they could afford them.
Sure.
A bunch of celebrities who want to be left alone.
What kind of jobs did your folks have?
What kind of childhood did my folks have?
No, jobs. What kind of jobs? Jobs, yeah.
My parents owned, they're both entrepreneurs, and they owned auto body and paint shops in Santa Barbara. And
great businesses, man.
They were good. They were good to everybody. And my dad left when I was about 16, which was not a great time for that. He went up to Oregon, where he's from, and kind of did a back to the country, connect with my roots, whatever the fuck that means type thing. I'm like, I've never heard of anyone leaving Santa Barbara when they don't have to.
Yeah. So they split basically?
Yeah, my parents split. My dad's an alcoholic, and he, decided that going up and, drinking beer with his shit kicker friends was more important than finishing out his job. So,
well, having raised 3 kids, I will tell you that I can see the appeal.
Oh, me too. Trust me,
at times, I've never done it, but
I said this the other day, and I think my wife might have taken it the wrong way. I was like, I'm nearing the age that my dad left, and I'm like, I kind of get why my dad left now, and I didn't mean it because we don't even have kids or anything. Like, our life is so simple and easy, wonderful. I meant it as like an age thing. Like, whoa, am I really doing what I want to be doing? I meant it like that. I can see it now, and he could have picked a better way to do it, but
of course,
but I don't know what was going on with him then. So, and I will say this: I grew up, again, privileged and a little spoiled, and then you have everything gone overnight, essentially, financially and emotionally. Wow. You kind of fend for yourself a little bit more. So I actually thank him for his inadequacy as a father, because it made me a fucking hell of a hustler.
Yeah, man, it's funny how that works out, isn't it?
Yeah, so maybe I should take him to dinner or something.
Are you good with him now? You guys on talking?
We talk a couple times a year.
It's got to be tough
It's not great.
It's almost like a stranger, probably. Like,
Yeah, it's a weird.
That's kind of
Like,
weird.
we just haven't been that close over the years, and I think my mom's always like, "You need to speak to your father," and I'm like, "Yeah."
That's good of your mom to do that, though.
My mom's a good. My mom is one of the best-hearted people I've ever met, but she's fighting a fight there that she's not going to win, and yeah, my dad's also heavy into the Trump stuff, which makes me
allergic.
I try to respect everyone's political beliefs and religious beliefs except that.
Except that one.
He's just really off. He's into like the InfoWars shit. So we're kind of.
Oh, wow. Like he's saving food in his basement or something?
Yeah, some shit like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Those guys are pretty extreme. Yeah. Yeah, I think she's fighting a battle that she may not be able to win there, man.
Yeah.
One day at a time.
Exactly.
That's all, man. Maybe one day you'll be, best friends. But,
sure.
Man, what were some of the bigger, and thank you for sharing all that, by the way.
Oh, no worries, man.
What were some of the bigger surprises for you, like when you first started playing professionally, about the business end of being a professional musician?
How full of shit people were.
Dude, you're righteous, man.
Oh my God, and I see myself doing it sometimes, and I'm like, no, becoming one of them. But someone would be like, oh my God, yeah, we're gonna call you guys next week. We love what we hear, and it's like, just tell me we're shit.
And they would never call.
No, we're totally interested, and then just the ghosting. I see it now too. We had one of my clients who's a writer. I had a very, very, very big band reach out. I wanted to do a book with him, and he does not need the work by any means. This guy's got people lining up to work with him, literally. And this happened to be a band he loved, though, and I really pushed for it, and I was up his ass all week long. You got to get over there, and you got to nail this. Well, then we just never heard from him again. I'm like, and he's calling me going, what'd you do? As a manager, it's like, now it's my fault.
Yeah.
Pushed him, and I had to apologize. Maybe they weren't ready, and, we won't name names, but, I don't understand the ghosting professionally. Just write back and say, we no longer want to do the book with you, Or we don't, in this case, it was we no longer want to do the book because they didn't do it with anybody else. So it wasn't anything on him or his skill level. It was just, they came to me too soon, but just to never even respond to someone is very strange.
Yeah, it is. And I have a short, not fuse, but I'm not real good with, I'm like old school. Like if I have to say no to someone, I will usually actually call them and not even email, because I feel like,
explain why.
Yeah. Cause I didn't grow up with email, and I just feel like, man, if I'm going to text somebody, or, it's like you hear people like my kids, and their friends, my kids are not, but their friends will break up 3-year relationships with a text. And I'm not from that era, man. So I'll call you up and say, hey man, this isn't going to work. I'm sorry. And here's why. Cause I feel like if I'm texting or emailing, it's I don't know, kind of gutless.
It is. I mean, look, we all puss out from time to time, but
yeah,
it happens to the best of us. But I mean, yeah, I think that's to answer your question again. Just that soulless, can't pick up the phone. I had a guy recently who represents another big band that was going to do a benefit for a friend of mine's charity. And we hounded him, and it is a huge band, and I knew they probably weren't going to do it. But they said maybe, and, instead of writing an email back, he picked up the phone and he called the director of the charity. And he explained why, and he explained what they would need to do it the following year, and they're having a dialogue of their own now about what it's going to take to get it done.
That's great.
And I just, he called me. He's like, just so you know, I didn't email, I called. And I met with the organization recently, and they were like, no, we really appreciated the phone call.
That's great, man.
And it was really nice to hear that.
That's a rarity.
A little more gracious with one another, especially during rejection.
Yeah, I think that's important. Yes. You
can really fuck someone up. Not me. I've been through it for years. So if someone doesn't email me back, I just kind of laugh it off and move on. But
right.
18-year-old kid who gets smoke blown up his ass by an A&R guy or a manager or whoever, is out there now running things, whoever these gatekeepers are, and they get told they're the greatest thing in the world, and they email 3 times, and, no one's emailing them back. And they, that kind of does damage to people. It's really fucked up. It can make people harsh. It could, if they have a substance problem, it could drive them back to that. So I think it's really important to get back to people and be really honest with them.
Yeah, I think so too. And even if
again, find myself not doing it sometimes.
Yeah. Well, as long as you're aware of it, awareness is the first step.
Yeah, it is.
Man, what were some of the lower points or like maybe the bigger obstacles you've had to deal with over your career, and how'd you get through them?
Two things: alcoholism, and number two would being like, what's next for me realistically, and when do I need to understand that a certain thing may be over, and what I've learned and why that was something I was good at can be used just for something else. Not really holding on to things too much. So I think I've been good about both of those things, but it took some time and some kind of embarrassment, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, but like, alcoholism isn't the kind of thing you like take a tablet for.
No,
you just, take a tablet and do 3 laps around the track and you'll be cured of your alcoholism.
Yeah, you tell an alcoholic to take a tablet, they're just sign me right up.
Yeah, man. So you been sober a while now?
Been sober like over 2 years.
Congratulations, man. Good for you. That's
Thanks.
really good. Yeah, that's not an easy thing, man.
No, it's not.
What was the trigger? Like, what made you say, I've got to fucking fix this for real?
I was like hiding it a lot, and everyone got a different version of it. Like, this guy was my drinking buddy on tour, and this guy is a guy I drank with at home, but they didn't know. Each one of them thought I only drink on the road. I only drink at home. And you're lying to the people closest to you because you don't want to let them down, and you're letting them down further. And certain things happen. And certain things blow up, and next thing you know, it's like everyone's kind of looking at you, literally going, "What are you going to do about this?" Because we're sick of being part of it. And that's when you either go down the hole further, or you say, "Hey, I'm going to go to treatment, or I'm going to go to AA, or I'm going to do whatever it is works for you." And there's so many great options now.
Oh, there's tons. Well, good for you, man. Congratulations.
And it's free. I'm going to remind everyone who's listening. I mean, everyone wants to go to these big fancy rehabs and sit on their ass all day, which I did. And it was great. But if you don't have the rock star money or whatever, or, good health insurance, in my case, just go to an AA meeting and drop $1 in the bucket, and someone there will help you.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've interviewed a lot of guys who've gotten sober, and they've shared their story, and they're like, they still go to, wherever they fly in, and it's almost verbatim. They say the same thing. I'll say, "Hey, do you still go to meetings?" And like everywhere I go to meetings, and they all followed up with, "I had no problem finding the dope man when I was flying all over the place. Finding an AA meeting is a lot easier than that."
There's a bunch of websites for it. I mean, yeah. I could find a liquor store that sells airplane bottles, by sniffing air. And I'll sit there and say to people, "I didn't go to a meeting when I went to Nashville. I couldn't find one." It's like, bullshit. You just didn't. And I'm guilty of that. I should go to more meetings, and I should be more active in my community. And luckily that hasn't negatively affected my sobriety, but it really could,
I always say, I've had some people close to me that had addiction issues, and there's a lot of like wisdom in those programs, like practical, common sense coping skills. Oh yeah. That I don't know why they don't have some of that in school or so. They're teaching you about fucking China. Who's the emperor of China in 14,000 BC or whatever. You should teach someone how to deal with stress. Yeah, it's funny. My wife, who's not an addict by any means, has 10 drinks a year maybe, but has been more supportive than anyone I've ever known. She'll go with me to meetings sometimes if it's like a milestone, like get your 2-year chip. And she always leaves and goes, "I love AA." People walk up to you and they shake your hand and they ask you how you're doing and how they can help you. And they listen to your story and they tell you something that can help you in your life, whether you're an addict or not. Yeah. Name me another place where that happens in America, especially in California or, around New York or LA or San Francisco. No one gives a shit about what you have going on. No, not at all. And there's so many, I remember there's a couple of things in specific I heard at meetings, and I was talking to someone's sponsor one day and I was really concerned about them. And they said, "Look, he's going to get it, just not on your time frame." And I guess I was ready to hear that message, and that actually changed my life because it changed my whole perspective about time frame, expectations, my right to have, which I don't have a right to have expectations. And, and it freed me up of a lot of fucking stress of now I became able to let go of all that shit. Like, if it's meant to be, it'll happen. It's not on my time frame either way. So let me just do the action and then throw it out there in the world.
Yeah, you kind of got to be like that. Like, oh, I'm going to try and, buy this house, or I'm going to try and do this, or I'm going to try and talk some sense to this, my neighbor. If it works, great. If not, you're not, none of us are in control.
Right. Basically.
And whether you're a religious guy or not, or spiritual person or not, it doesn't matter. Because even if there's nothing out there propelling anybody, we're still not in control.
100%.
Go over and stick a gun in someone's mouth and say, hey, do this.
Yeah.
It's up to them. And even then, you're not in control.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, man, congratulations. And
thanks. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a really good thing. And when to understand something's over. So what is your barometer for that? Because, as I've been self-employed for 20 years, so it's something I had to learn too. Because, if you have that personality where you're like, fuck it, I'm going to dig my heels in and I'm not giving up. Well, sometimes you just need to give up because it's not working.
Yeah, sometimes you need to give up. You need to redirect your energy. And I'm not giving up on anything, but it's like when I got done with Courtney, there was some other artists, but those artists, it wasn't the same package. It wasn't traveling the same way. It was in a lot of ways a step down. And it was bands I didn't really like as much because I was a fan of Courtney's growing up, and kind of like, I'm going to do this just to get the little bit of money they can pay me so I can say I still play in a band for a living. That's not the right reason to do something. No. You're not going to be happy. Something was propelling me towards more of the business stuff. So, I went and took my energy and made that happen. It's knowing that, it's fun to be in the band. It's fun to walk off stage and have people kiss your ass and all that stuff. Anyone who says they don't like that is lying.
Totally.
But there's a time to let someone else do that and maybe help them. It's playing the band. I mean, I know it sounds weird with the amount of geriatric tours we have going out, and some of them are good friends of mine and possibly clients. But it is really a kind of a young man's game as far as finding what you're passionate about. So a lot of these people that are touring in their 60s, like Keith Richards started Rolling Stones in his early 20s. That's what he's still doing. I mean, he's still thinking of it that way. He didn't join them last year as a bunch of old guys to make money.
Right.
To him, it's the same shit.
Absolutely.
Just, a nicer hotel room and a bigger paycheck.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what I mean by that is just knowing when the natural pull of things, hey, it might be time for me to take a step back.
Yeah. And I think that's important to be aware of, what is the universe supporting me in and what is the universe clearly not supporting me in?
Right.
Yeah. Well, very cool, man. Flip side, is there anything that you've done which at the time might have been out of your comfort zone, but hindsight being 2020 turned into a big breakthrough for you?
Getting sober.
Wow, dude, that is fuck, man. That's a great answer.
Because I was a guy who I was not the kind of guy who's he's going to die in a hotel room in, Van Nuys if we don't go after him right now. Everyone's like, he'll be fine. He just likes to party. And I would say I was a fun drunk for everyone. Everyone says I was a fun drunk except my wife. Not a fan.
Yeah, not a fan. I like that.
Of my partying. But I think, that was a big one. Just kind of it was uncomfortable. I didn't know how to I didn't know how to do it. What am I going to do when I go to a dinner meeting? Who's going to order all the vodkas?
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, I think that has been the main one. Other than that, no. Even now when I get involved in something business-wise, if I don't know what I'm doing, the first thing I say is, I've never done this before. It's not that, it's no different than this, though. Mm-hmm. So I'll try it. And if I fuck it up, I fuck it up.
Right. And as long as you open, I find I've done the same thing. And as long as you're open, it's when you come in there hey, man, I'm the best in the world at this. And
oh, God, yeah.
And I'm not that guy anyway. And you don't sound like you are either. But,
I know plenty of people that they have to walk in. There's a filmmaker I know recently walked into a meeting and started blabbing about, I'm this and I'm that. And talk about a meeting being over so quickly.
Yeah, well, it's easy to spot people like that. Their favorite topic is usually them. The smartest person in the room is always them. And it's I'm kind of allergic to that, man. I just don't have much patience for that.
Gotta know your limits.
Just be nice. Don't be a dick.
Yeah. I know this. I don't know that.
Yeah.
I've never done this, but it's similar to this, and I have done that. Let's see if it works.
And I'm confident I can pull it together for you guys, and I'll work real hard to make sure it happens.
Yeah, and this is something I say to someone when I start managing them is let's give it this amount of time, and if it's not where you want it to be, let me help you find the right person.
Great. Yeah.
That person and I'll work out a deal. Maybe not.
Yeah. No risk guarantee. I like that, man, from a sales standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. Because you never know. I mean, you could be the most talented, connected manager in the world. Sometimes things just don't work.
Right. If it goes back to is the universe supporting that effort or not? And just sometimes you don't know why shit happens.
Yeah. Sometimes Barbra Streisand releases an album and no one buys it, and there's no rhyme or reason why. It's just
does she really?
I don't know. I'm just making fun of it.
Oh, no, because it's funny. Because do you know who John Shanks is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I had interviewed John, and he was like, on on social media with all this shit with Barbra Streisand, and I was like, oh my God, did that not sell?
I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
What I mean is sometimes you get John Shanks is one of the not only greatest songwriters out there, and one of the nicest people I've ever met, but an incredible guitar player.
Yeah.
And just a guy that everyone, there's a reason people are still calling John Shanks to work is because they like him. There's a lot of guys out there that can play just as well as John. And there's a lot of great songwriters out there that are maybe even younger and hipper, but John's a nice guy. So people want him around. And at the end of the day, people hire who they want around.
Totally. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've been really lucky with that. Certain people liked having me around, so I get to work with them, and whatever I lack, they'll help me make up for.
That's cool, man.
If you, like you said, come in like an asshole, you're out.
Outside of probably not drinking, is there any, what advice, if you had to go back and give yourself advice to make your life easier, the younger, you're pretty young, but the younger Shawn Dailey, what advice would you have liked to receive that would have made your life easier?
I would have stuck with school more. I dropped out of school in 11th grade and was very, very, very fortunate. And it wasn't because I was not good at school or did not have the aptitude for it. In fact, it was the opposite. It was always like, your son tested really high, but he doesn't show up to class. I would have taken more of an interest because now as I get older, even like today when we were trying to get on the interview, I don't know how to work this app and I sound like a 90-year-old man. And it's like, well, had I gone to college from 2000 to 2008, and gotten some sort of, degree, taken my time, I would have learned how to use a computer better and become better with writing and been more secure with this. And I think people think of college as a means to an end, and it is if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor or something, but you also learn a lot of life skills that I just kind of jumped right into playing, where when you're in a band that's doing well, people just do shit for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I kind of would have paid more attention to being a little more independent in that way.
Totally get it. Thanks for sharing that again.
Not like go get a degree in, Chinese history like we were talking about, but, learn how to use, accounting programs and, sit down and write some papers so you understand how to write something. When someone, can you write a 2-page bio of what the project is? I'm like, oh, fuck. I don't know. Can I?
Totally get it. Yeah, man. Well, I get it. Thank you, man. The other as far as your Skype thing, man, if you had like a 14-year-old kid around.
I know. Probably should have had a kid like 20 years ago. I'd be set now.
You might be insane if you had a kid 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I think it's smarter waiting, man. I was a lot smarter dad when I had my 18-year-old than I was when I had my 28-year-old. So
it's fun how that works.
Trust me. Music. Top best concerts you ever saw. Top 2 or 3 best shows you've ever seen.
It was recent. I went and saw my buddy Tommy Lee play his final concert with Motley Crue on January 31st of 2015. And man, a lot of people love and hate that band. That show was so good. The way they put it together, every light, everything. And, you could really tell that the 4 of them, as much as they all, quote unquote, hate each other, and they're 4 shitheads who've been playing together for 40 years. So that was a good one. Actually, don't tell Jerry, but David Byrne's most recent show.
Don't tell Jerry.
No, I talked to Jerry about it. He saw it too and was like, dude, it's incredible. David's a genius. I mean, of course it's going to be good. What do you think?
Is that the one now? because someone was telling me about that. He doesn't have like a drummer. He's got a different, one guy's playing a cymbal, one guy's playing
essentially a marching band wearing all gray suits doing choreographed maneuvers.
Yeah.
But it sounds like a regular show, though. It doesn't have like a marching band sound to it.
That's wild.
David's an incredible talent. And, obviously I wish it was a Talking Heads reunion, but it's not. So let's just enjoy it for what it is.
Sure. I actually, do you know Angie Swan? He's a guitarist.
I know who she is. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got her coming on the show, I think next month or something like that.
Yeah,
so I'll be interested. She did a good job.
It would have had two of her, though, because there were certain guitar parts I was missing. And it's not because she doesn't play them properly.
Oh, sure.
It's only one, she's only got two arms. So I wish David would have had a two guitar player, or if he has two, then three.
Yeah,
because those old Talking Heads records have so much going on, and so each little part it's like a foundation, like it keeps building up and up. So Jerry and I kind of discussed it, and it was like there's kind of a piece missing here and there, but maybe he did that for a reason. Maybe he thought it was better without it.
Yeah.
But either way, the energy in that show, I saw it at the Santa Barbara Bowl when he did Burn It Down the House. I was like, yeah, man, I haven't felt this energy in a long time.
That's very cool, man. And that was this year, right?
That was a few months ago, yeah. So, those two have been really good.
Any cool or interesting stories behind how you got maybe any of your basses or your amps, any of your equipment?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of instruments anymore. There was a period of time where I had a lot of them. And I kind of, I think everyone goes through that. And I had some stuff stolen, and that kind of burned me a little bit. And I was like, fuck this. I'm done with the vintage stuff.
Yeah.
It's irreplaceable. Even if you get the money, it's irreplaceable.
Yeah.
But I have this one bass. I mean, I have a bunch, but I have one left that's old that my grandmother, who we discussed, that's from the Bronx.
Holy crap.
She bought me a bass when I was 16. It was an Ernie Ball Music Man Stingray. It was brand new at the time, so it's about 20-something-year-old now. And I still have it, but it's been through this weird thing where she bought it for me, and I paid her back $20 a month.
That is really cool.
She didn't need the money. She was just like, you're going to pay me something, from the Bronx. You're going to pay me.
Well, you got to teach a lesson, man. Got to get some skin in the game.
I paid her back, and she gave me the money at the end and said, here you go.
That's cool.
And now you know how to save money. And I
very good.
Sheepishly sold that bass during a rough time in the early 2000s before Rock Hill's Kid got signed. I needed to pay my rent. The people I were living with were up my ass about it. And I said, fuck it, I'm just going to sell this bass. I never play it anymore anyway. Because I was sponsored at the time. And I sold it to someone, and I kept track of it. And I followed him around. And when I started making, some real money, and I went back to him, I said, okay, how much? And, he made a little money off me. He knew I wanted it, and I have the bass back now. And it
That's great. Oh, that's really special, man. That's cool.
Yeah. And because my grandma would always ask me, you still have that bass I got you, right? You didn't sell that thing. Oh, no, of course not. That's totally lied.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that probably felt shitty every time you had to tell her that. Yeah. Well, it's good that you got it back, man. That's a cool story.
Got it back. It hangs right above my desk.
Desert Island Discs, man. 3 of them. No particular order, just for today, because that's a tough one.
Danzig's first self-titled album. God. That's a good question. Something from Public Enemy, but I'm not sure which record. Maybe Fear of a Black Planet, because it never gets old to me. And Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil.
Very cool, man. That's all 3.
Or, I didn't even get into the soul and R&B stuff that I want to bring, but for today, that's kind of what I'm.
Shout at the Devil. I remember when that came out. That's so funny.
Great record.
Yeah, it is a great record.
Rated record.
Man, most important things you've learned about yourself through your career experience and life experience?
That I am capable of more than I think I am. And it's like we talked about, good to just kind of pick up the phone and just start feeling around and seeing what's out there. Not be afraid to be honest about, your level of skill or what you think it is, and just kind of start working with people on things, not just to make money, but whether it's charity or, if you're interested in something, give them a call. People want help,
That's a really nice message, man.
Yeah.
Best childhood memory?
I was just talking about this in another interview recently. My mom took me to see The Offspring in 1993 or 1994. It was pre Offspring being a band on MTV. They were just a cool punk band that people in California knew about. I was in 5th grade, and we stayed up late, and she is not interested in that kind of music. We had a friend who worked at the club. She took me because I said I was interested in punk rock. She's like, well, this is what it's all about, I guess. And everyone was walking around talking about Bad Religion and No Effects. I didn't know what the fuck those things were. And I'm like, yeah, those bands are great. So the next day I go to the record store and I look them up, and I look like all this new music. And it's right around the time of the LA riots, and they're all LA bands. And they all came to play in Santa Barbara. And like Green Day was coming to Santa Barbara at the time, pre-Dookie. And I was just old enough to catch that. And it was a special time for that genre of music. And all those bands went on to be absolutely humongous after that. And I remember watching MTV, and I was like, wow, I just saw that band at the club like 2 weeks ago.
That's wild. How cool is your mom to do that?
She was cool like that, man. She's cool. She's still cool. But
she's still around? Your mom's around? Good.
Oh, yeah, mom's around. I'll see her on Thursday for Thanksgiving. She lives here in Santa Barbara. It's part of the reason I'm here is just to, be a little closer to family.
That's nice, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't have said that 5 years ago.
Well, good, man. You've evolved.
Yeah, you start to figure these things out as you get older, as I'm sure you know.
As you get older and you get sober, that's a
well, that helps. People actually want you
just a little bit. Yeah, right. You're welcome.
Yeah,
I hear that, man. I'm going to ask you this question. It's probably going to be a little awkward. What's the most important thing you learned from your dad? Even if it's you learn what not to do.
Don't. I mean, how do I phrase this right? Don't let your vices get in the way of your responsibilities, because you will regret it later when you're all alone. Very, very tactfully said, man. Something that I see in him, and I would, again, say it right to him, and he would agree. And I sometimes sit there and think, well, what if I did this? What if I did that? And it's like, man, I don't want to turn 70 by myself, drunk, broke, going through that. So I would say from him, I learned a lot of what not to do. And it's unfortunate because he didn't really have the proper tools to be taught that himself. Yeah. It's not his fault. It's just, it is what it is. It is what it is, man. Yeah. Yeah. And I think he knows deep down inside, I think, Shawn got sober. That's great. Like he got it. Maybe other people related to me did not. Good for you, man. Thank you. That's great. I love that. I wrote that down. Don't let your vices get in the way of your responsibility. That's going down to the bar and talking to the hot blonde girl and having, 19 cocktails is not more important than the fact that you got to pick your kid up from Little League the next day or got a house to pay off over the next 15 years. Yeah, man. What are you proudest of, both musically and personally? Musically, I really, really, really like that whole record we made, and it gets a lot of shit. I mean, people bought it, and there's a lot of people that really loved it, and it got some, okay reviews, and Courtney wasn't in the greatest place when we did it, so it wasn't her at her top form. But I get a lot of shit from it because it's like, oh, it's not the original band, and I'm like, well, if you look back at every album, and I hope people go back and do this after I say it, every album has a different lineup.
Yeah, they did.
There is no whole. I mean, Eric played on a lot of stuff, but not everything. And, everyone's like, well, Melissa Oftemauer is the real bass player at Hole. And in my mind, she is too, because that's what I grew up with. But, Melissa didn't play on Live Through This. She did the touring for it, but she didn't play on it. She didn't write it. She did Celebrity Skin and nothing after that. So it's like I was actually in the band longer than her. I was with Courtney for 9 years. Melissa did, I think, 5 years. So it's not obviously a competition. It's not about that. But,
no, and who cares?
Yeah, and we're all part of the same dude. We all work for Courtney, and there's some shit that goes along with that. We should all get together and have a dinner one day and just, cheers her and toast her and kind of roast her a little. But we were all in the supporting role to this person who is more talented than us in her vision and her craziness. And instead of being divided, I wish there was more unity. Although I've, done my own bit of division by kind of slagging off Eric. That's a whole other story. It goes both ways. Yeah. But I'm really, really proud of that record. I thought it was really good. I thought the bass tone we got was great. I thought on a musical level, Jack Irons played drums on it from the Chili Peppers and Pearl Jam.
From Pearl Jam, yeah.
Yeah. I've done 2 records with Jack now, and like what an incredible experience watching that guy work, because there's no one that really plays like him.
And wasn't he he was also part of
a lot of things.
Was he part of Audioslave for a minute?
No, that was Brad Wilk.
Okay.
Jack did the Wallflowers. He's done Les Claypool's solo band. He did Joe Strummer's solo band. He was in a band called 11, which is like just amazing. Just an amazing alt rock band from the 90s in LA that never really got very big, but were very influential. I mean, obviously the Chili Peppers, Pearl Jam. Jack's a big deal, and he's never made huge money or been regarded as this big deal, but amongst those who know, he's really the guy. So I'm really proud of the people that worked on that record, and I think Mikko, who played guitar on it, he was put in a really unfortunate position to try and finish it when Michael quit, Beinhorn quit, and he did the best he could at a young age. And I'm very proud of that record.
That's awesome, man.
Very proud of it.
How about personally?
Personally, I think obviously the getting sober thing, but we've already established that. And I think, getting married to my wife, we were together in high school and split up for a while and got back together, and really kind of knowing that her and I probably belonged together. And really, there was a time she wasn't that happy with me. So kind of sticking that out, letting her have her space and live her life, and knowing that, I had to sit back and watch that happen because of my own bullshit. And that if I kept on the right path, or at least some version of the right path, maybe we'd come back in contact. So that's been really great. And I got this puppy 2 years ago, and I got to tell you, that has completely changed everything.
That's so cool. Dude, that was really nice. There's a love story there, man.
Yeah, it's a good story. People like
touching.
it, and it's
fun.
But the dog has been a huge one too.
Just like being around it.
I love the dog. I love having. Everyone's like, "Oh, you should have a kid." I'm like, "No, I'm going to get a dog." And
yeah, start slow, man.
I could never imagine coming home fucked up and not feeding the dog or something.
And your dog will be far more obedient than a child would be. I'm just telling you, for whatever that's worth. Having had multiple dogs and many kids, yeah.
We'll stick with the dogs from now on.
Good for you, man.
The dog's looking right at me right now, going, "We talking about me?"
I love pets, man.
They're great. It's been really good for me to have being home for a couple of years and having a dog and moving back home. It's been a nice change from the chaos.
Good, man.
Yeah,
you deserve it. You've made it happen, man.
Yeah, it took a little work.
Yeah, what doesn't?
That's a good. Everyone wants. Well, we live in an age where shit just happens. Again,
no.
You make a song in your bedroom and you put it on Spotify, and you're a fucking rap star overnight. But it's like you got to kind of put in a little work.
Yeah, man, you got to have skin in the game. Shit doesn't happen.
Well, you have to learn too. You learn how to perform and. I remember someone recently I know went to see Cardi B, and they're like, "Wow, she's got all these hit songs, but she's terrible live." I'm like, "Cut her some slack. She's never really toured. That's like grabbing a kid out of his guitar lesson and going, "Hey, we wrote you some hit songs. You're going to go play the Super Bowl."
Yeah.
What the fuck do you expect? Hotness only goes so far.
That's a good point. It's a very good point. Yeah,
I actually felt for her. I'm like, dude, she's just blew up fast. Leave her alone. Give her time.
Well, it's funny because you have a lot of that now with all these guys on. YouTube that are blowing up, but they're in their mom's basement.
Yeah, they don't know how to go out and not only play for 300 people, or I was speaking to a producer named Michael Knox in Tennessee recently. He's a big country guy, and he made the best comment. He's like, "Yeah, all these people know how to succeed, but he goes, I'm interested in artists that know how to not succeed because that's how you build." And I was like, "Whoa, that's really smart." He goes out and looks for the people who are playing for 3 people, because if you can entertain 3, you can definitely do 300.
Yeah, that is a good point.
3,000 or 30,000, whatever. So
that's a good point. There's some sharp guys in Nashville for sure, man.
Oh my God, whole different level.
Yeah. Last question, and you might have answered it already about school, but as we get older, you all have some regrets, and not necessarily about some of the things we did, but more often maybe about the things we did not do. Mm-hmm. So my question is, if you were to give advice to someone listening that's younger than you, what things did you regret that you didn't do that you wish you did? And, I want just to make someone else aware of it so maybe they could avoid holding back or not doing something for some reason or another.
No, I know exactly what my answer is. It's not taking things as seriously as they could, because I think when you're young in your career, you're like, well, I'm not successful yet. No one's paying me, so I can just kind of fuck around. And look, fucking around is really fun. And staying out till 4 a.m. is fun. And, eating cheeseburgers when you're wasted at 5 a.m. is fun. All that stuff is fun. And I'm a fan of all of it. But I think if you conduct yourself really professionally from day one, meaning you go and you learn everything you can about your instrument without killing the creativity behind it. You learn about read all those books you see in the bookstore and your parents tell you to read about the music business, and you think, oh, what do they know? Those books are right. You should read them. They have incredible information. And I think if you're going to jump into something, you might as well jump in full force. Like, for me, it was like, I wish I would have stayed in high school and just worked hard to get into UCLA. Then I could have moved to LA for my career and to getting an education at the same time. And if all else failed, I could have just gone straight into the business.
Right.
Because there are great music business programs at UCLA and USC. So, if your dream is to move to LA and go for it, why not do it, on the dime of someone's scholarship while you're learning about the business and getting up and going to your, vocal lessons or guitar lessons, or making sure you stay physically fit, when you're a young artist like that. It's important. It sounds funny. I sound like an old guy or something.
No. That's really smart. I think it's great.
I think if you're going to go for it, go for it. I wish I would have continued my music education more because I was naturally talented. And if I would have tried harder, I could have been really good. And I feel like I limited my opportunities by not knowing how to read music or knowing I don't like playing a 5-string. So I don't like playing it because I don't really know how to play it.
Totally get it. I think that's a great answer. And it's interesting because and I don't know that I have my shit together now, but I certainly didn't get my shit together until I was probably in my mid-30s. And I will meet young guys sometimes that are 25, 22, 27, and they're really together. And because they've done all the things you've said, for whatever reason, they've taken everything really seriously and they made a commitment. They were super professional. And I always have like crazy respect for those guys because it's like, wow, I think that's great advice.
Yeah. Those people are like, oh yeah, I learned how to play piano classically and I've taken guitar for 10 years and I sing and I took dance class in college. It's like, I bet you're really good at what you do.
Yeah.
Not some bloated asshole coming in being like, yeah, I can play Led Zeppelin. It's like, okay. Because I definitely limited myself from music gigs by saying, oh, I don't read music, or I don't want to work for a pop artist because I don't look the part, or, something like that. Like if you're going to go and move to one of these big cities and really go for it, I'd say just, if you're going to do it, just go full bore.
I think that's really good advice, man. Thank you. I hope someone listening to this takes that to heart.
Yeah, me too.
Shawn, can't thank you enough for your time. Let me tell people where they could find you and why they may want to contact you. It's Shawn Dailey, ShawnDailey.com. And if you want to talk with Shawn about potentially working with him as a manager, because he's got a great story and he's got some great clients and he's doing some really cool things, or if you're interested in working with one of his clients, why don't you talk about some of the people you work with?
Yeah, so obviously we talked about Jerry Harrison from the Talking Heads, and Jerry's, and he's an icon, and a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member. He's in Modern Lovers. He's in the Talking Heads, two of the most important and influential bands of the last 40 years. He's produced albums with No Doubt and Foo Fighters and Live and Crash Test Dummies and Nona Hendrix and you name it. And he's great. He does some cool public speaking stuff. He's really a special guy, and I'm indebted to him for letting me work with him. I work with Anthony Boza, who's a 8-time New York Times bestseller. He's written books for Slash, Tommy Lee, Derek Jeter, Wyclef, Courtney Love, which never came out, unfortunately.
So he's the ghostwriter behind all that.
He's the guy. Yep.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah, he's the guy, and he's not Ghost. He's Co. So his name's on him.
Right.
He's the guy. He started by doing an Eminem book. He's about to do a second Eminem book. Anthony's great. He did a great book on AC/DC. Work with him, and I work with Boo Mitchell out in Memphis, who's a producer on Uptown Funk, which obviously everybody knows that song. Him and Mark Ronson. Boo owns Royal Studios, which was started by his father, Willie Mitchell. He's iconic, Tennessee, Memphis guy. And we work together on a tour that's called the Royal Review that goes out. And it's kind of like all the great artists that have been through Royal come and do these tours. We have a new merch line coming. So stuff like that.
That's
Good
great.
stuff.
And there's a contact tab on your website?
Oh, yeah. Contact is my cell phone and my email, and that goes directly to me, and I call everyone back, and I email everyone back.
Awesome. And because he's so honest, if he thinks you suck, he'll even tell you that.
I'll tell you.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Better for you.
Everybody, check out Shawn. It's Shawn Dailey, ShawnDailey. And you can check him out on Instagram. He set this account up a while ago, so I'll give you the what is that even called? The ID? The handle? I don't think it's called the handle. Young people would call it.
Well, that's what I'm calling it.
Yeah, that's what I would call it. That's why I said, wait a minute, let me shut up because it's not called a handle. It's Lil Ghetto Shawn. LilGhettoShawn. And the reveal for that will be on the next time Shawn's on this show.
Yeah, it's not that interesting.
We're going to hold. Man, I can't thank you enough. You're a super cool guy. I appreciate you being so genuine and sharing everything, man. You got a great story, and I hope to have you on the show again in the future, man.
Anytime.
The next time we'll do Shawn 2.0, man. See what's next.
Yeah, hopefully there'll be some new stuff to talk about.
Thanks so much, Shawn. Everybody, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this interview, please share it with a friend on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Thanks again to Shawn Dailey for spending time with us. Please check him out online at Shawn Dailey, ShawnDailey, or on Instagram at Lil Ghetto Shawn. And I appreciate it. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get on our newsletter so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice. Go play your guitar and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.